him by 10 o'clock in the a.m. or you're dead too.
So who's going to do it?
Do what?
You know what? Come on, just say it. It's you.
It's me. What do you want to do until then?
So far, I stole a sweet-ass car. Get down, man. A bunch of drugs.
Nice. No drugs at the bar.
It's prescription. I got the hypertension. But I did some good stuff, too.
Oh, my God.
I rescued my friend.
Give me the key. There's no key. Give me the key. It's new. It's a button.
It's automatic.
You push the button.
You push
computers.
the button.
Oh, man, this is like the future.
Yeah, I got a couple of stand-up guys right here who are both way too old to still be doing this.
Wait, you talking about me and Brian?
Oh, actually, just you, I guess.
I was going to say, are you speaking for me? Because that's what I'm looking at.
No, you're the new young Turk. You're the main character from Goodfellas. We're
Henry Hill.
Henry Hill.
I'm going to rat out the whole website.
Hey,
you just watch.
I got a stand-up guy for you right here.
Well, it's funny. This
Hervé
movie here was so inevitable. Wasn't this, though? Like, we knew this would happen. We've seen, literally since the 60s, they've been doing these films. It's like, hey, we know these stars are fading and they're really getting pretty old. So let's make a movie about them being old sort of caricatures of characters they were in other films.
Wait. They're old, but here's the twist. They're old.
I know, exactly. Like, the most familiar meme to this, of course, is the Grumpy Old Men series that you can't help but think back to, like with Walter Matthau.
Sure.
And
Jack Lemmon.
Jack Lemmon. Thank you. I'm an idiot. But
you're just old.
But this is not. Let me say this in defense of stand-up guys. This is not that film. This is not one of those films. It is not a slapstick, goofy, here's for all audiences type of movie.
It's not Grumpy Old Made Men.
No, it is not Grumpy. Thank you. That was beautiful.
You're welcome.
God, I love you, Brian Salisbury.
Leon hates both of us right now. I just want you to know.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't have a poker face.
Hit list.
But I'm not sure that what you get here is a film that ever should have been made either. It's very maudlin. Here's the story.
Well, see, now when you say that makes it the exact film you just said that it wasn't.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. It's like Grumpy Old Men is not a maudlin film.
It is.
It's not depressing and sad. It's a slapstick comedy. This is a very kind of like pulled back, like, wow, let's think about our lives and how sad it is that we don't have that anymore, and not make a lot of jokes about it, and just kind of think about it, and then let's let some of us die, and let us think about death and what it means. And I'm like, what the fuck, guys? Are you going to shoot some more people or what?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're mad at the movie because it wasn't all full of sunshines and rainbows and the exotic marigold hotel?
No, I just wanted it to be funny. Like they sold it as.
I will agree that there's a question of bad marketing here, because it is sold as being a comedy. And as I was watching this movie, didn't laugh once. Not to say that I hated the movie, but I was not laughing. And that's mostly because, as Cyrus was saying, it goes into these weird sort of postmodern, like, metaphysical discussions, and it's like, okay.
I don't want to.
You guys weren't laughing, and neither was I, but I was happy to not be laughing, because the comedy that it was selling itself to me on, I didn't want to see.
That's a fair point.
No, that is a fair point. I'm just not sure they actually managed to find a good movie outside of that. The story here is Al Pacino plays Valentine Val. He keeps saying, don't call me Valentine. My friends call me Val. He is a loud, gregarious, kind of obnoxious, old school mob guy who's been in jail for 28 years. His best old friend and partner, Doc, who's played by Christopher Walken.
Doc!
Has come to...
That's what they call me on the street.
Go ahead.
Sometimes. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you had to do it. Has come to pick him up from jail, and we know right from the get-go that he has been ordered to put a hit on this guy. Like, hey, get him to jail, that's fine, but you got to kill him. From an old mob boss who is still pissed off that through basically just an accident that sent the guy to Pacino to jail in the first place, the mob boss's son got killed, and he's still holding everyone responsible, most importantly, Pacino. Even though Pacino's character not only took the rap for everybody else for the situation, but kept his mouth shut the whole time.
Oh, yeah. He was a stand-up guy.
He was a stand-up guy. He did almost 30 years in jail for the criminal organization.
Yeah.
So in terms of mass murderer, he's a pretty cool guy.
Well, it's true. I mean, he like I said, he's got a code. He's a stand-up guy. But the mob boss is, I never remember this actor's name, but he's Salamanca from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
A guy who's played nothing but mobsters.
Mark Margolis.
Yes.
Margolis.
Yeah.
Margolis. I don't know.
Margolis. Right? Oh, Margolis. Okay, yeah, you're right. He's done nothing but play mobsters his whole life. And here, as Pacino refers to him, he's a vindictive son of a bitch. And yeah, to say like, I'm going to let this guy serve out the entirety of his sentence, his full 28 years, and then I'm going to kill him and have his best friend kill him. That's some cold ass shit.
That's a dick move.
But you know what? That's just what sets up, okay, this guy's got one night to live. He's got to be popped by the morning. And his best friend taking him out like, hey, I just got you out of prison. Get you a suit and a hot meal. And what else do you want to do? It's your last night.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where the movie derives sort of its bleak, more 70s gangster type of movie where it's like there is that realization that, by morning he's going to die. And it takes sort of the idea of facing mortality as an aging individual, plus the dangerous world of being a mobster, and kind of throws them into kind of this pastiche theme of like over the course of one night they're going to investigate both, at least thematically. And that was interesting, but again, it's just not what I was expecting.
It's not pulled off as well, but it reminded me of this old movie. It's John Cassavetes movie, Mikey and Nicky.
Okay, see, thank you. I was trying to... I knew there was some movie that I had seen that kind of had a similar vibe to this, but I couldn't fucking for the life of me remember what it was.
But have you seen that before?
It's the one with... No, I may be thinking of Killing of a Chinese Bookie. Never mind.
Okay.
I don't think that had this vibe.
No, not at all. No, I'm going to have to keep thinking.
But that is one with two low-level mobsters going all night, where one is pretty much in charge of killing the other, even though they've been best friends the whole time.
And it seems like it's an interesting premise. Like, when describing this, hearing the basic concept, it sounds more interesting than I felt like this film really is, because it wears what type of film it actually is right on its sleeve, which you never have a second's doubt that Walken is never going to actually get around to trying to kill this guy. There's never a moment that you think, oh yeah, it's going to come to this. I never felt that for a second, because it still wants on some level to be a comedy, and its attempts to be a comedy fail badly enough that it upsets the dramatic tension that it wants to have at the same time.
I know what you're saying, because the comedy feels like your grandpa trying to tell you jokes that are either too old or he's not able to tell well. Like the times it goes into jokes, they're almost kind of slapstickish or not that funny, or they take the joke from They Live and they beat it into the ground as if they wrote it themselves.
Oh, I know. You're like, wait, you guys stole this from They Live.
Yes.
They Live.
Yeah.
This is not an old mob film.
Movie, right.
What time is it?
I don't know. What time is it? It's time to kick ass or chew gum. And guess what? I'm all out of gum.
At the same time, like, that would like weigh me down with it, where I was like, oh, well, it's one of those. And then it would turn around immediately after and do something I thought was heartfelt or dramatic. And it kept doing this for me back and forth, to where I'd go like, okay, I'm putting it in this category. And we're like, oh, wait, okay, well, then maybe I'm liking it more now. Okay, just did that thing again. Oh, wait, no, that was kind of cool.
But I will agree with you only in the context in the third act. It starts building up this relationship between Christopher Walken's character and his lonely life that he's lived.
Yes.
Because he was kicked out of the mob as well. Just said, no, you're not a made man anymore. You just got to fucking sit and wait until Al Pacino gets out of jail. We know enough about him that he's been living this quiet life of painting, of meditation, basically, of just living a normal guy's, kind of dull life. And the one light in it has been coming to this, local cafe and going there every day, ordering the same thing, and this just friendship relationship he has with this young waitress who works there.
Yeah.
And that relationship ends up being kind of an emotional centerpiece to give the film some amount of a heart at the end. Enough so that I wasn't able to condemn this whole thing, because it really does work the way they piece that together.
And I think the emotional centerpiece for me is actually Alan Arkin. I think he is far and away the best character in this movie. And if I had a complaint, it would be that they just don't use him enough.
Well, because you see the way it's marketed once again. I mean, like it's all three of them on the cover and in the trailers. Alan Arkin plays Richard Hirsch. There's a brief thing where his daughter's Margulies, Nina, who is once again in Scrubs. Poor girl.
I know. She just can't escape ER.
She can't escape ER. And yet, Alan Arkin is definitely one of the most funny parts of this film. He's one of the most likable characters in this film, and he's barely in it. He's in it for maybe 20 minutes, right in the middle of it. I'm like, wow, that was kind of disappointing. I mean, I see that the way you were trying to leverage him inside of the story, but it ended up just bringing me down more than making the story feel more meaningful. It felt like more of an obvious move than a useful move.
I guess I didn't feel that way because I see Alan Arkin get used in this way, playing almost the same type of character so often that I was like, okay, he's here doing this again. And so at the point where he wasn't, I was like, okay, well, I'm actually more interested in these two other guys, and this takes him out of deflecting from them. And
you're right. The Walken and Pacino story anchors the movie narratively, but I think Arkin actually does bring a lot of that of the core emotionality, and it's just like once he's gone, we still are interested in this story, but I don't feel the movie ever reaches that high point again. And for me, I think what completely undermines anything they do is the ending. I'm not a fan of the ending at all. I mean, not only is it anticlimactic, but it's this weird sort of like, people were comparing it to like Butch Cassidy and Sundance, which I thought was a little...
Well, they compare any ending.
That's true. This is true. But it's the problem that I have with it is it feels more like a conventional action movie ending. Like right after this weird sort of emotional introspection, and suddenly it's like, oh, but we're doing this cowboy ending, and then we're just going to end it without giving you a resolution.
Oh, really? I felt... Okay.
Leon, I think we should take a vote right now. Brian has to do the rest of his review in Christopher Walken's voice.
Because it completely subdued like what they were doing up to that point. I'm not doing the rest of the review
the whole rest of the time.
God damn it.
You want to get paid? You want to get paid? We're going to do the Christopher Walken voice.
Oh, come on. I'll leave the kid alone. He's done enough.
I actually disagree with you about the ending. I liked it, if for no other reason than it felt like there was no other way to end the film.
Thank you.
I'm
sorry. My saying thank you is like going like, yeah, Brian. But I don't feel like that. But that when I talk about things that won me back, it was that because I felt like it's at a point where like, look, there's only two ways this can go down. And while it was going one of those two ways, the way it finally, went out, I was like, that was very graceful. I liked that a lot, actually.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been cliched if this was a different type of film. I felt here it was really it meant something different here. I mean, it's resonant of those other films like Butch Cassidy and what have you, but they're not trying to repeat that. If anything, It was sort of guys who are, like what else are they going to do?
What else are they going to do? Exactly.
There's a lot of things I didn't like about this film. There's certain things here and there I did like. There's a little side plot that they kept coming back to with a whorehouse that's run by Lucy Punch as the head prostitute that could have worked a lot better if not for the final joke with Alan Arkin around it. That's such a dumb gimme joke that feels so faked. When before I was like, I kind of like this setup, this weird relationship they have with these prostitutes.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. They keep coming back to it in a very subtle sort of way. And then they undercut it completely. But Lucy Punch is great in her minor role as sort of the head madam of the house because she's very like not what you'd expect at all. But Mark Margolis as the villain, he's barely in this. I mean, he to say he phones in his role is actually pretty literal considering every scene he's in, he's just on the phone. There's not much here to really love, and there's just a little bit to like. It does win you back a bit in the end. It does have a heart, but it's a little, maybe it might not matter by the time you get to the point. I'm going to give this a rental, but I can see how some people might like it less or slightly more. I have a feeling both of you guys fall on the slightly more.
Well, I see what you're saying, and you're right about all of that. I guess I did fall in the slightly more because it would lose me and win me back. This, like the what you just talked about with the whorehouse, perfect example of a great setup, and I liked the characters, and I liked what it was doing. But then the end joke, I was like, you had to just pick that low hanging fruit. I really wish you could have not,
as it were.
wish you could have not done that. But then would move on to something else that I really liked, back and forth. What happens with Christopher Walken? Almost everything that happens with him in the last bit. I don't know if it's even the third reel. Really, I found, despite being obviously emotionally manipulative, got to me.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, part of me had almost tuned the movie out, and then I was sitting there watching it, and like was kind of tearing up in one eye. I was like, wow, okay, you sons of bitches, you got me. And I like the way it went out. I mean, it's one of those movies where I would almost give it a rental, except I know personally I liked enough to give it a low matinee.
Which will be difficult because I'm not sure where this will be playing that you can see it in a matinee.
I know.
But no, I mean, there are a lot of things I liked about it. I do like the fact that they struck a nice balance between these guys actually playing the beats and just kind of falling into their, like, Cosa Nostra charisma. I mean, you are talking about Pacino and Walken, two guys that have played gangsters their whole career.
Yeah.
And they could have easily just coasted on that. And I like the fact that while they are naturally charming at points for that reason, they are still they're still trying things and doing things that are unique. And I completely agree with Leon that Walken's arc toward the end of the film is really moving. I wasn't as sold on the ending, and I really don't understand the Vanessa Ferlito story that pops up.
I know.
Just kind of like right at the end of the second act that doesn't really have any...
Well, I guess I see the point of it, because it's more to showcase that these guys, they aren't, just because they're old men doesn't mean they're pushovers.
Right, they've still got bite in them, but I feel like that they prove that in other ways throughout the movie that we didn't need that additional...
It's to re-emphasize the code.
Yeah.
Like, these aren't, yes, they're killers and criminals, but they had a code, and let's see why that code was important and how things have changed and how they're like, hey, it's worthy putting our own lives on the line to protect that code.
Yeah.
So I get that. That was the old Knights thing.
I mean, I'm not in misunderstanding of its reason for being there.
Sure.
I just think it's repetitive. I just think it could have been taken out and we wouldn't have lost anything. I am kind of surprised that this is directed by Fisher Stevens.
Yeah.
I guess he's directing movies now and not just playing racist caricatures of Indians in 80s films with robots.
He directed a lot lot of films.
Okay.
Yeah, looks like you did.
Well, I mean, I think he produced a lot of those.
He starred in a lot of films.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, yeah, he hasn't.
No, you're right. You're right. He hasn't directed a lot of films.
Wow, there are a lot of films on his resume that he was in.
Yeah, you're right. His last movie was John Leguizamo's stand-up show. Oh, wait, it wasn't even a movie. Never mind. An episode of Early Edition.
Oh. I think when it works the best is when it's calling back to kind of 70s era crime movies, and that's all well and good. And again, I think that Alan Arkin is great in his brief time on screen. I think I would give this a rental.
The one thing I will say about this that bugged me the most was that I felt like, but honestly, I thought the two leads were kind of just, they were falling back. You said you didn't think they were, Liam, but I felt they were falling back on stereotypes, or at least Pacino was falling back lazily on the stereotype.
Hey, man.
Played again and again and again.
Look, goddammit. It was Brian that said that.
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
I did.
And then Christopher Walken looked like he was just exhausted. I mean, and sure, he's playing character it's supposed to be, but I didn't want to see that. It just made me sad to watch it.
Hey, man, people get older. That's just, it makes you sad because you realize that you're older. You go like, damn, that dude's old. I remember when, shit.
Well, see, that's the thing, is it's worse for gangsters to get old, because then you say things like, as far back as I can remember, it was this morning. So, I mean, yeah, and then you forget where all the bodies are buried, and you can't remember who you're supposed to kill. It's a very troubling situation for an aging gangster.
I want to come back to Leon calling me old for just a second. Fuck you.
Oh, really? You got offended by being called old?
Well, he wanted to say something about pots and kettles, but he didn't want to get in trouble.
The difference is I'm not old. You know what? I'm out of here. These boots are made for walking.
Jesus Christ.
I know. I just ruined it. Brian, do you want to fix it?
That was bad.
It's like the old days, isn't it? No, it's better. I can't do what I said I would do. Mercy is the one saying mercy. Finish this. I took the fall for everyone. I'm a stand-up guy.
Listen.